Hello, 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 you guys. It's me, Dr. VicTORIEus here. And I am very excited. Of course, you all know we've been spreading awareness about ACEs this month, and it has really been an amazing sight to see. Let's be clear. We have all kind of tools, not just on my Instagram page, but there's information out here. I just figured it would be a good idea. I mean, there's all kind of awareness going on right now. It's stress awareness month. I don't know if you all know that. But then there's sexual abuse month. There's so many different awarenesses that I figure why not give ACEs its own so we can start getting this information out here. And I'll be honest, I'm seeing it. What about you, Marv?
So that's my introduction.
I
Yeah,
mean, you like it.
yeah. I'm definitely seeing people be more aware of what happened in their childhood, how that impacts their lives in so many different ways in terms of like their friendships and their relationships. Um, I think that we still have a long road to go in getting
Yeah,
people to call it aces. Like you talk about it all on the show, you talk about it on the show often.
right.
Um, a lot of people want to call it childhood trauma.
And
Trauma,
that's
trauma is, and it's okay because people are addressing it, right? But like we need to bring more attention to ACEs so people can take the test and they can really, really hone in on what they need to address. So when it comes to ACEs, the main people aware about ACEs and the study and the test, we got a little
right.
ways to go. But I definitely see more people being willing to confront what happened to them as a child and how it affects them as an adult.
And I get it. And I think where I get like, it's one thing to take the ACEs quiz, but then it's another thing to get the score. It's like you get the score and it's like, oh, okay, oh well. No, there's so much more to it. And I think what we need is to get to that point, which is the reason why I'm pushing the ACEs education of the matter so people can at least understand that ACEs score. So when they switch things up, when the CDC finally, so if there's anybody that's out there that has been, looking at ACEs and things of that nature from when it started, for them to do these updates, to me, I saw it as a wake-up call because it went from sitting dormant, let's be clear, on the CDC's website since I think they did it in 1998 and then they did it in 2016 a little bit. But now it's like, oh my God, big, get it out here. Oh, well, these are the updates and this is what's going on. And I just want people to understand how serious it is now because how many times have we preached about mass shootings? They're 11 seconds now. Well, when they first started, of course, it was a big net deal. But now they're not talking about it no more because
Become
it's
desensitized.
yeah, you know what I mean? It's just like racism. Well, yeah, it was back in the, fight the power back in the day. It was a real big deal. And it's like now that it's 2024, and it's like, well, some of us are still experiencing this. And DEI is actually, the
Yeah,
topic of discussion now.
we all are experiencing it. And the thing about racism, and I talk about it often on my podcast, the Man Listen Show.
Yeah,
Uh, the thing about white supremacy is that it starts to teach people, it wants to make people believe that it does not exist.
right.
And when we see the steps that they are taking to target DEI, the steps that they are taking to eliminate some of the resources and programs that were used to level the playing field for people that look like you and I. They're very systematic about it. And if we don't confront it, if we don't say, hey, no, this is wrong, then what will happen is by the time our kids and our grandkids get to a point um, that they are, living this life for real outside of our cover, then they're going to have some problems. So
And it's
awareness
not
has,
even just that. What about the Palestinians? That's racism. You know what I mean? So it's like not just
mhm,
African American. We're talking about yes, LGBTQ has a community. Yay, about time. But there's still issues. So it's not just black and white, it's racism, which is the reason why, if you all didn't know, that's another adversity that has been added to ACEs.
So, Dr. Torie, can I put you on the hot spot?
You want to? Go ahead. Oh, Jesus.
I
Go
know you,
ahead.
I know you got it. You got it under control. You that's why you Dr. Torie.
Uh-huh. Come on.
So I was talking to a couple of friends of mine. All of
Mhm.
us have children around the same age, like young adults in their 20s, teenage years, right? And because of the work that you're doing and a lot of other people are doing, mental health is something that a lot of people discuss now, right? And we are very hyper vigilant about the mental health of our children and making sure that they are okay.
Mhm.
I think one of the things that has become somewhat problematic,
Mhm.
and I've talked to a couple of my friends about this, our children are more aware, but there's sometimes when you feel as if your child is saying, "This is affecting my mental health," because it's the buzzword. It's a buzzword, and they know that, you know what, if I say this, they have to really listen to what I'm saying, and I probably will get my way. Now, when we were coming up, we've talked about on the show. When we coming up, our parents did the best they knew how to do, but there were some mistakes that was made.
Oh,
I think that some of the trials and tribulations that we went through may have been may have caused unnecessary trauma, but it also made us resilient adults as well.
okay.
So, as an expert, how do you how do you address your child's concerns?
You
And
have to take.
and then you know your kid, right? You know your
Uh-huh.
kid, so sometimes you may think, okay, they may be BSing,
Mhm.
but on the 1% chance that you didn't take it seriously and then something tragic happens, and then you'll be kicking yourself for the rest of your life. But how do you do that but still push them to be independent, resourceful, and become, a strong adult?
You answered your own question. Because you cannot not take it seriously. You know what I mean? Like you can't take that risk of a kid coming and saying, didn't have this. And, we've seen situations thanks to TikTok where, they're sharing true stories of how, children have um, cut themselves or attempted suicide or came to school so they can get help. You know what I mean? So it's like you really cannot take it seriously. It's really up to the parents to kind of educate and know. Now, I'll be very vulnerable.
Yeah.
I have three girls.
Mhm.
I missed the memo one time for my oldest daughter, and it hurt finding out because at that time, I was in my own phase. So I wasn't paying attention to what was going on with her because I was going through my own stuff. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And so it wasn't until, therapy and us getting together and communicating and all of that, she shared. And I was hurt. I was devastated because I really did not know. Like, let's be clear, my daughter did she knows about ACEs. She actually was one of the guests. She volunteered. But I'll be honest, I think at that time, I think she was also trying to reach out. And
Mhm.
I didn't see it as that. I saw it as her supporting, but she really, really wanted to share what was going on in her nice teenage little brain. And I'm not saying little brain as if she didn't know because she really did. So you have to look for the signs regardless. Ask questions. How's it doing? How's this person? How's school? How's this? How's this? You know what I mean? Because you really won't know. A lot of us, our generation, because our generational trauma from our parents was so heavy, we think we're doing the right thing when it comes to our children. And the reality is the right thing may not be it. we might need to do a little bit of digging in the dirt and investigating because that's what's going on with this generation. They think they know it all, but that's because we've allowed them to be so dependent on things. They have more resources. You know what I mean? We had encyclopedias, they got phones. You know what I mean? So it's like when it's time to
Well,
go
there's
in,
benefits, but there's also, the detractions as well.
yes. And so to answer the question, I say take it seriously 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's just me. And that's from
And you're right. You
professionally, and that's for me personally. Absolutely.
and you're right, because I've had a child who I have 4 children, and, um, 2 of them have dealt with mental health issues, uh,
Mhm.
some self-harm,
Mhm. Mhm.
and, it's hard. It's hard to deal with
Mhm.
because you're like, "Well, just talk to me," or like, "What can I do?" Um,
Right.
and I don't feel as if it's something that is like they're faking, or
Right.
you're doing it for attention. But there have been times where I had to, like, okay, on this situation, I
Right.
had to push you. I had to say, no, you're tripping on this situation right here. But it comes down to you being a parent and knowing your child, right? I
Mhm.
You talk about our generation, and when it comes down to, is like the lesson I learned from my mom. Our parents did the best they knew how.
They
There's
try.
mistakes they made. Some of them, probably could have tried harder,
Mhm.
right? But if we
Mhm.
dig down deeper into it, they probably had aces that prevented them from knowing how to do harder.
Exactly.
That may be an excuse. Some of them, some parents are just low down, but a lot of them, they just didn't know better because of the aces they had. But
Right.
I remember as a young man, because my mom raised 4 boys.
Mhm.
I remember as a young man, my mom raising 4 boys, and I remember having a discussion with my mom. And she said, you can't. Every child is different.
Mhm.
You can't parent them the same.
Right.
You set a standard for your house. Like, this is what we do as a family. But how you get results, how you push, how you nurture each child is different. And I
Right.
remember, being frustrated with my mother and telling her, like, well, why are you so hard on me?
Mhm.
You don't do that to the other three. They get to do this, and they get to say this, they get
Yeah.
to act this way, but you hard on me. You know what her response was?
Well,
You can take it.
mm,
I know
that's
you. I know you can take it. So that's
yeah.
why. And at the time, I was just like, man, that's some BS, mama. It wasn't until I became a grown man who has to look out for his family, you know, nuclear and extended, that I realized she paid me the highest compliment.
She did. You
So,
you
it's
you
just
know
it's
what you
it's
can do
hard.
with your kids. You know what I mean? You know your strengths and you know your weaknesses of your kids too. You know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah.
I think that what we have to do is not once we get to the healing journey and we get to understanding ACEs is trying to change those people that caused us harm. And I say that to say, go back to your question. When I was in school, middle school kids were doing vapes. You have more access to that. And then those parents are upset. But it's like, well, parents, where did they get it from? So don't be upset, you know what I mean, when this is actually
I hear what
going
you're
on.
saying, but
But I'm talking about middle school. We're talking about
yeah,
elementary. We're talking about high school is not even a discussion anymore. We're talking about elementary.
it goes back to what you were saying in terms of technology. When you
Mhm,
said we had encyclopedias, they have phones, they got Wikipedia, they got the world at their answers just at their fingertips, right? You didn't
mhm,
have to have a parent who was like, I'm gonna buy this, spend all this money for this encyclopedia set so
right.
that I can learn about the world. The benefits also have for every pro, there's a con. And
Mhm,
we were growing up, it was like, okay, there may be some kids who kind of dabbled in weed.
right.
you may have seen your dad or your mom smoke cigarettes, so you started smoking cigarettes, right? These children now, when it comes to the vapes, they are inundated with the ads and all the stuff that's going to push this highly, extremely addictive and harmful habit
Mhm.
on them. And as parents, every generation has to deal with something new. And as a parent, we are always a step behind. So
Mhm.
that's why I extend a little grace to the parents and to the children because it's always somebody trying to put something on us.
Mm. Okay. And for me, it's not, I agree. I'm not
Mhm,
disagreeing. It's being susceptible to change. You know what I mean? Our generation is different.
mhm.
This upcoming generation is different.
Oh, these pandemic kids, the ones that were like fifth to sixth grade when the pandemic hit, and they missed out on a lot of critical communication and relationship cues and building. Like I always say, like when the pandemic hit, my son, my youngest, was a junior in high school, and he did his senior year in like pandemic rules. And
Mhm.
I was like, dang, like he gonna be messed up. And I talked to one of my educator friends,
Right.
and he was like, nah, he's straight. Because by the time he was junior and senior, you got the foundation.
Yeah, but not
Even
everybody.
the babies, the kindergarten, first graders, second graders, you like, well, damn, they're gonna be screwed up, man, because they're gonna miss out on the foundations of education. And most people was like, nah, if the parents are really committed, we can get them back up. But the middle schoolers you talked about, that critical phase, because most people when they had kids, they said, when did your child lose their mind? Middle school.
Mhm.
Those are the ones
Yeah.
that we're about to see.
Mhm.
And it might be ugly.
Mhm. Which is the reason why there's a foundation. And I'm not, this is not a shameless plug. I promise you it's not. But when I left, I got more calls where can I get this recommendation? Can you help me with this? Can you help me with this? Well, with the job description, that's one thing. But now that there's no job description, what can you do? Mentorship is needed bad,
Mhm.
bad. And people don't get it yet. That's the reason why the kids are staying after school a lot more.
Yeah.
That's why students are reaching out to other people. Teachers are tired, you guys. They are.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why a lot of them are leaving.
Mhm.
That's the reason why a lot of them are, kudos to the ones that are still staying in there, the ones that are hanging in there. I pushed a lot of, start off as sub, come off because I started off as a sub.
Mhm.
But it's hard now because you got a society that has accepted so many things as the norm.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's safe to say, that this generation, I don't know what they're gonna call them because you got what? You got the millennials, you got Gen Z. I forget what they call the generation that's after Gen Z.
I thought it was Gen X.
No, we're Gen X.
Okay. I knew it was something,
We're Gen
but
X. So it was the boomers, then it was Gen X.
I don't know about all that stuff. I
That's all.
do, you know what I mean? I know we
Let's look it up. Let's look it up. So it's the boomers, then it's Gen X, and we're at the very tail end of Gen X. Like we're like right before millennials. So they actually have like a subcategory for us called Xennials. If you look at it, it really kind of makes sense because like while we have a lot of the qualities of Gen X, we were like the first ones to like learn how to email, learn how to use the internet. So our experience is a
90s work
little bit
right.
different, huh?
90s work right.
Yeah, and so you got Gen X, millennials, then you got Gen Z, and there's a generation that's after Gen Z, and it's hold on, Gen Alpha.
I ain't never heard of that in my life.
Well, it just came because they're young, right? They just
Oh,
so you got the Gen Alpha, right? So it's safe to say that Gen Z and Gen Alpha. You tell me if I'm wrong because you're the expert. they all are coming in with an ace on the test because
Absolutely.
they all lived through the pandemic. That's an ace.
It sure is. Come on with this educational moment
Mhm.
because you are correct, which is the reason why they probably changed the information on the CDC. You guys, it's 1 in 3 now that have an ACEs score. It's 1 in 6 that have an ACEs score of 4 or more, which is the reason why I'm trying to break it down so people can understand that ACEs score. That's going to help because, again, there's only so many things that you can do now. If you go to an emergency room, you're going to be sitting there with all those people with COVID because that's still going on right now. Did y'all hear the snack? Okay. Yeah, that's really going on right now, pretty bad right now. So if you think about it, trust me, they've given everybody home kits now where you can still order those free home kits. But there's a lot going on right now. And if there's something that we can control, not saying that we can not control certain things, but things like bullying, you can control that. So you
Listen,
can't.
they're finding kids now.
Yeah, yeah.
Or they're finding parents.
Yes, they are. And that's the thing that people haven't caught on yet. Yes, they are. Cyberbullying, 1,500 smackaroonies. They're getting on it right now. And if we don't address it or bring it up, then that's where the problem lies because that's something you can control. We always have that discussion. Now I have one. I love her to death. She's but that's you can't. You have to find I have to find another way to, if, of course, if somebody hits you, we teach them, you make sure you hit them back, but we have to try to figure out why is this person bullying you in the first place. They must have been bullied prior. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying we have to sit down in a round table and do what we need to do. We need to bring awareness to what the situation is and how we can do something about it. I'm sticking with it.
You're
I'm sticking.
so you are so wonderful.
I'm just being
You're
honest.
passionate about this topic. You're changing lives. Um,
Thanks, Laura.
and you're helping me.
Thanks.
I, we talked about often like coming on the show, how like, I was like, yo, we're gonna do this thing. And then like we first got into it, I was like, oh no, what is
You did.
what
You
is
did.
this? And now it's helped me as a man and as a person because I'm able to give grace when it's needed.
So good.
Now, where I'm still a work in progress, and this is where we add a little humor to the show.
Go
Uh,
ahead.
don't bring your kids around me if they bad, because look, I believe in corporal punishment. Dr. Torie don't. They go get an ace. They go get an addition that pandemic ace. They go get another one because they like when I went to that man's house, he whipped my behind. Now then he fed me, and he showed me some love, but he whipped me in the circle when I acted up. You're gonna get that from me. And then the
You,
other thing I am is I recognize when people have trauma, they have issues that they're dealing with, and through ACEs, we learn to, get more grace and kind of like, okay, well, they're kind of going through it, whatever. But I'm at the stage of my life where it's like, I got to put myself first.
very good.
And if you got issues that you're dealing with, hey, listen, go build that bridge, go to a therapist like I did and figure it out. But what you're not going to do, and shout out to Dr. Christina Slaughter. We need to
Hmm.
get her on the show. She's a therapist in Kansas City.
Got it.
She said, oftentimes people spread their trauma dust on
Ooh.
others. And what you're not going to do to me is sprinkle your trauma dust on me. So go figure that out and stay away from me because, Dr. Torie will work with you. I can't do it, baby.
And- but your growth is real. Like, let's be clear, it is. And I'm super proud of you. I like how the podcast has kind of turned. You know what I mean? Like, these people are actually using it for what it is there for. It's an educational tool. People are like, "Yes, I remember watching episode 16 and then I found out about this and then I didn't know that lupus was linked to this and ACEs is linked to like people are really discovering things, but that's what the podcast is. It's an
I've
education.
learned so much, and I get the behind the scenes on this show, and all of the guests are wonderful because they have shared like, really personal, private, deep stuff and not about them, not just about them, but their family, their children. Some of the stuff you're like, oh my goodness, like, and you are still standing. Um, so I want to pay respect to all of the guests. I think the two that really, really stood out for me, Brittany Allington, Crow Hill Project.
Okay. Yeah, she's
Her
good.
story from like, being a young gangbanger into, what do we know about gangs? They terrorize the community to like bringing awareness to the history of her community and bringing awareness to ACEs and
Okay.
everything else. Like she's an amazing young woman. Uh,
She is.
I,
I
I
can see it
really,
over there.
definitely would like to have her back on the show. And
It's
then
important.
Leah Forney.
Okay. Okay.
Leah Forney was a powerhouse.
Yes, she was. Now
And
I will share this with you. Leah, you already know she goes and do tons of speaking engagement. She is not ashamed of sharing her sexual abuse. Coming on a podcast has helped her tremendously. She is one of those people that are now using ACEs as the introduction, and then she elaborates on her sexual abuse journey and her journey to healing. So shout out to Leah because she's doing it right now. She's not the only one. I'm noticing a lot of people starting to do that now. I think that's cool because they'll talk about their ACEs, which you talking about physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse. They're talking about that, but they're also talking about ACEs as well. So that's the great thing for me because at least they're talking about it. It's a great introduction. Now, I will tell you when we talked to the last person we interviewed, I won't mention any names. I did get a call the next day. 100 people. One of the staff members did get triggered, but nonetheless, the kids were in it. They were ready. They were ready to learn more. And again, the whole goal again is to bring awareness to ACEs. We can elaborate. I can go over the score. I could do all of the things that we need to do. It's bringing awareness to something that we really can do something about. And I'm sticking to that because again, I've had when we first started the podcast, it was me and you. And
Mhm.
now here it is. We got all of these wonderful people that are doing quite well. Shout out to Dr. Nicole Price, who was just on a TED Talk on stage in Atlanta a couple of months ago. Listening to her and her tell her story, she's already on a journey to healing. She actually does empathy seminars. So there are people out there that are really doing it. We need to continue to do what we're doing. And so again, I thank you as dealing with this, you know what I mean? Because the stories that we've heard, some of them have been quite heavy, and
Oh,
that it takes a lot of you got to identify your triggers and know
yeah,
which ones you can accept and which ones you don't. But you really never know because I don't think people understand that we don't do a lot of editing too much. We really go with what
yeah.
we sit down, and there's a serious, safe space and opportunity for us to have a discussion. So I'm grateful for that too, for sure.
And one of the other things that I've learned from, this show and the work that you are doing
Thanks.
is recognizing my triggers. You talked about it.
Mhm.
And I think that's important for a lot of people because recognizing your triggers in relationships, not just romantic, but family.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah.
And recognizing like, okay, I love this person because I'm supposed to.
Right.
Some people debate, are you supposed to, right? Are you required to love everybody just because y'all share blood?
But then you got a lot of people that are not. I think about, my dance, the pyrotech,
Mhm.
uh, a lot of people won't change, you know what I mean? A lot of people may not wanna be invited to the party again, or I think about, Greg Miller who was like, "Yeah, don't invite me to the Christmas party because I'm not coming,"
Yeah,
and they make it mandatory because it's family. Everybody don't have to attend.
you don't. And like I said, I've learned like I knew from a long time ago, like there are some people I have to love you from afar.
Mhm.
You know, we can talk on the phone for a little bit, and even talking on the phone, I got to deal with your little snide comments that you think I don't catch.
You said you love.
Yeah. Nah, but it's yeah, these little snide comments that people throw in that you think that okay, well, I'm checking on you because I love you, but Dr. Torie, I'm proud of you. Like I don't have, us being friends outside of working on this show.
Yeah.
If there's something that you are doing that I don't like,
Mhm.
or that I think is destructive, there's something that you're doing that is self-destructive. If I feel like I need to say something, I'm going to say it. And it's not going to be passed in a passive aggressive way where it's like, you gotta, you and your so and so. I won't say what it is. You and your so and so's, or just kind of making you know that people make little snide comments because when you do that, do you really have my best interest at heart,
Right.
right? So to
Mhm.
get back to the whole point of what I was talking about, 'cause I know I'm going on a tangent, learning my triggers
Mhm.
and when a person is a walking trigger for you,
Mm.
because I was just recently in a situation where I wasn't even around this person. Like we weren't even like in the same proximity for a long time, but we were at a function
Mhm.
where I knew they were there, they knew I was there.
Right.
Um, and what happened to us was very traumatic and very hurtful for me.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the whole lead up, the days leading up to it, and even the days after, I was functioning in a different way. You know,
Mhm.
I've done a lot of work with therapy, and I was happy. I'm a happy person. I haven't always been that way. I haven't been able to say that all of my life. But then I started noticing myself regressing and doing
Mhm.
some of the self-destructive, saying some of the self-destructive things I used to say and doing, and in that mind frame. And I caught myself, thankfully, because I did the work. And I was like, why am I acting like this? And I thought about it. Damn, they
Mhm.
put me in a mind state where my nervous system was all thrown off.
Mhm.
And to me, that's progress. And that's why I want people to be able to listen. I want people to listen to what you're doing because if they do it, if they learn about their aces, then they can say, okay, this is my ace. My ace was community violence.
Mhm.
My ace was physical abuse. Okay, what caused the physical abuse? This
Right.
person. So then, you realize, well, why do I always act silly? Why do I act out and you can trace and be like, oh, it's because of them.
Mhm. You'll find out and you'll know.
It's sort of like when you have an allergic reaction to something. You ever had an allergic reaction to something?
All the time.
So you have an allergic reaction and you're just like, damn, what is breaking me out? Or like, what's making me sick? And it's like a process of elimination, like, okay, well, and then I ate this, I washed my clothes with this, I drank this. And then eventually you'll figure it out. Boom. It's that. I can't eat that anymore because of
Right.
what it does to me. Oh,
Exactly.
I figured it out. I can't be around that person, or I
Mhm.
can't be around them in the way that I used to be around them because of what it does to me.
Right. 'Cause that's what it is, and again, that's the reason why I'm not pushing therapy on everybody because it's all kind of there's all kind of alternatives, you know what I mean?
We talked
But
about that on this show. People
yeah,
brought up the alternatives. Yeah, absolutely.
and they have. Shout out to Kelly, oh, and we still I think what I love about the podcast is that I still talk to everybody. For the ones that I don't know why, but for the ones that I do, it's serious. Like we're building a community for real where people are sharing resources. They're talking. Kelly, oh my God, just did one talking about the nervous system, and I sat in, and it was great to see. Of course, she talked about ACEs, so I like to see that. But yeah, it just letting you know how the ACEs can affect your nervous system. It was like people are really out here educating, and that's what we need to know. The CDC didn't just update this for nothing. It's serious, you guys. We have to start taking advantage of the things that we can control.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I do believe as adults, it affects us more. But when we're children, if we're not aware, then we're not aware. And that's understandable. It changed my life finding out about ACEs. Let's be clear. Thank the Lord.
Mm.
Because I sure didn't know about it back in the 90s. Do I think I should have? Of course. But here we are now. And I'm doing the best that I can to educate as many people as we can. I don't care if you say, hey, I'm learning to not do this. That's growth. That's a good thing because now you know that it is not okay and this is what you need to do in order to heal. So again, that's why I push people like Jason Phillips, and I'm going to keep, shouting out all of, Candace Wrights, still writes, you know what I mean? There's so many people that have been on the podcast that are really doing their thing to help me help others understand ACEs. And for that, I'm going to continue. Yeah, April, we said is, ACEs awareness, but I'm not going to stop. I'm going to continue to do what I've been doing for the past 2.5 years.
Yeah. And before we wrap it up, I'm telling you, learning about, I mean, there's the pitfall of things becoming like buzzwords and people saying like, oh, it's just people just saying it because it's trendy. But
Yeah.
I'm telling you, and I got a guest that I want to get on,
Mhm.
learning about people who are neurodivergent.
Mhm. Mm.
Not only have we talked about people, who shared about being neurodivergent, we've experienced
Mhm.
working with people who are neurodivergent.
Mhm.
And, we talk about giving grace. You have to really extend a lot more grace to people who think differently than the normal,
Exactly.
who think differently than the majority of society. I won't say normal, who think differently than most people do. They approach
Right.
things in a different way.
Right.
So neurodivergent, and then something that I've learned, and we haven't really talked about on the show. I'd like to get somebody on who really, could go deep into it. Regulating your nervous system,
Ooh, we did
because
have somebody. I'm trying to tell you,
I remember
Kelly.
that. I don't. Maybe I missed it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That's who been. I'm telling you. Remember, I was wearing my glasses. I started wearing my yellow print
Well,
of her
so
holistic approach, and I loved it.
my thing is, you know, we talked about in the past how ACEs can help people like with your relationships. I've been
Mhm.
telling a lot of people lately, hey, I was raised on love.
Mhm.
And
That's
when you're dealing
myth.
with somebody who was raised on survival, you gotta do a lot of work.
Mhm.
You gotta do a lot of work to make it work, both of y'all. But it goes deeper than just your relationship with your family, right? We just talked about that. Family, right?
Yeah.
We've talked about relationships in the past.
Mhm.
But what did TLC say? Shout out to the 90s. What about your friends?
Mm. We don't care.
What about the friends that you have around you who
They don't
don't have a regulated nervous system, right? And we all got that homegirls like, hey, like, why you blow up when we out, you blowing up and you getting all aggressive with everybody, and you just overreact. That nervous system isn't regulated, and then it starts to impact everybody that's around them. It's just
care.
so much that you have done. You started some stuff with this, Dr. Torie. You started some stuff, man, and we're gonna make it. We're gonna
Because it's
we're gonna
people.
rock it till the wheels fall off.
I'm just saying we all we got, because there's some people that won't don't even want to accept aces because it's coming from me. And it's like, y'all, if you only even knew, you know what I mean? Like, let's be clear. Forget the messenger, accept the message.
Mm.
Because at the end of the day, it wouldn't matter if it was from me, it was from you, it was from up, down, in, out, sideways. ACEs is going nowhere. We have to continue to do what we're doing because, again, there has to be a reason why the CDC made updates. And they did all the updates that my recommendations for my dissertation were. So to see community violence growing up in Chicago, everybody in Chicago, let me name some good major cities. So shout out to Brittany because she's all the way on the East Coast representing. You got Chicago, you got Kansas City, you got Detroit, you got New Orleans, you got a lot.
Baton Rouge, St.
And
Louis, Detroit, Cleveland,
and we
LA.
have to continue to educate. If we don't, then we will. And I'm not going to say what's going to not happen. The information is already out there. I'm not going to stop anytime soon. So this is the reason why, again, I wasn't given Dr. VicTORIEus just to be given Dr. VicTORIEus. People are seriously taking advantage and creating victory, not just amongst themselves, but to other people because they are spreading awareness. So to you all that have not, join us because there are a lot of people that have. So thank you guys. We're going to continue to keep doing this. We have tons of more people that have already signed up. So if you are not, you should come share your story. You all have seen it. I've provided an open space. I have where people say, "Oh my God, your podcast is amazing." We have to keep doing that in order to get the information out about adverse childhood experiences. So
Take
with
the
that,
test. Take the test. And if you need help breaking it down, hit up Dr. Torie.
thank you. You guys, thank you so much, of course, as always, for tuning in. You can join me on Thursdays at 12. I think I've caught the attention of a lot more people. So I've been doing a lot of more podcasts and I've been guests on a lot of more podcasts. So thank you guys so much for embracing me into the social media community. And you guys will see us both soon. Take care, you guys. Bye
Don't
bye.
forget the at Man Listen Show. That's my podcast. I'll let you
Yes.
next time.
Bye bye.